and welcome. My name is Mark, this is Riffle Shuffle and Roll, and today we are continuing our Oktoberfest celebration with a little casino style game called Schwimmen. If it's your first time visiting the channel, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell so you're notified about new games every week. Schwimmen is a game for 2 to 8 players. In this game, players are trying to build the best hand possible with a value as close to 31 as possible. Now, the player who has the lowest hand value at the end of the round will lose a chip. The last player remaining with any chips is the winner. Anybody familiar with 31 will already understand the basics of this game, but Schwimmen offers a little bit of variety that, in my opinion, makes for a more interesting game. Now, with all that in mind, let's dive in and learn how to play. To play Schwimmen, you will need a 32 card deck. I'm using the Bicycle Euchre deck that ranks 7 through Ace. You will also need enough chips for each player to start the game with 3. As I mentioned, the deck for this game is composed of all 4 suits with 7 low up through Ace high. Players are trying to build a hand with a value as close to 31 as possible, and only cards in the same suit can be added together. So cards 7, 8, 9, and 10 are worth the value of the number on the card. Jacks, queens, and kings are also worth 10 points. Aces are worth 11. Begin setup by making sure each player starts with the same number of chips. You can use more or fewer chips if you like. Using more chips will extend the length of the game, and using fewer chips will shorten the length of the game. 3 is a great place to start. Each player is dealt a starting hand of 3 cards. The dealer gets an additional 3 cards dealt face down to him. We're going to play that the dealer is here at the bottom of the screen. The dealer does not look at these 3 additional cards. The rest of the cards are placed in the center of the playing space. Now each player may look at their hand. Once the dealer sees their hand, they can choose to either keep it or exchange it with the other extra 3 card hand that they dealt to themselves. They may not look at these 3 cards before deciding. If the dealer chooses to exchange their original hand with the extra, they place these 3 cards face up in the center. These become the first option cards for play. They then take their second optional hand and make it their own, and they can now look at it. If the dealer chooses to keep their original hand, that extra hand of 3 cards becomes the option cards for play. So those are placed face up in the center of the playing space. Now that setup is complete, the game may begin. So remember, players are trying to create a hand that equals 31 points, or as close to 31 as possible. To do that, they will need cards that are in the same suit. There are also a couple different sorts of melds that they can make in their hand that will end the game quickly and might even automatically win the round for them. So let's go ahead and take a look at how melds are built, how cards can be added, and those special melds that will earn players significant points. When figuring up your hand total for the round, only cards of the same suit could be added together. So this hand, all 3 cards are spades, so you can add all 3 together. And in this case, this would be 30 points, 10, 10, and 10. In this example, only 2 of the cards are the same suit, so you can only add those together. So this hand has a value of 17. If the round ends and a player has 3 cards that are all different suits, their hand is worth the value of the highest ranked card. So here, this player's hand would be 10 points because the 10 of hearts is the highest valued card in their hand. Now there are also a few special hands that a player can build. The first is a 3 of a kind. Now even though these cards do not share the same suit, they still have a really high value. So regardless of the rank of the cards, if a player has a 3 of a kind, that hand is worth 30.5 points. And I know that's sort of strange, but it's sort of a middle hand between a 30 and a 31. So it's still a pretty good hand to have. 30.5 points. Now anybody who's familiar with 31, the American version of this game, will know that this is kind of an optional rule that isn't always incorporated in the game. But for Schwimmen, it's there. Now the next 2 special melds that I'm going to show you will automatically end the round as soon as a player has it. So when a player ends their turn with this meld, equaling 31, 10, 20, plus 11, 31. Whenever a player ends their turn with a hand that is equal 31 points, they announce it, they lay their hand down, and the round ends immediately. There is only one other hand that is better than this. That hand is called Fire. If a player has 3 aces at the end of their turn, they immediately claim Fire, lay their hand down, and end the round. This is the highest valued hand possible, worth 32 points. It ends the round immediately, and even though it's a 3 of a kind, it is still worth 32. When a player ends the round with a Fire hand, not only do they automatically win the round, but every other player loses 1 chip, not just the player with the lowest valued hand. Now that we understand how to build a hand into a valuable set of cards, let's go ahead and begin the game. Play starts with the player to the left of the dealer. On a player's turn, they have 3 options. They may exchange 1 card from their hand with 1 card from the layout, or they may exchange all 3 cards with the entire layout. If they don't want to do either one of those things, they may pass. If a player passes, their turn ends immediately and the next player goes. Player 1 is going to go ahead and pass on their turn. So here at the top of the screen, player 2 is going to go, and they are going to exchange their Jack for this Queen of Hearts. So they add the Queen to their hand and place the Jack of Spades down on the layout. That ends their turn and play passes. The next player is going to exchange the Jack of Clubs for the 9 of Hearts. And that ends their turn. And we're back to the dealer, and the dealer is going to pass. Now I should mention, if every player passes, then 3 new cards are turned face up. The 3 that are already there are removed and discarded, and 3 new cards are in their place. So we're going to continue play. Here we are, player 1 is going to go again, and they are going to switch out this Ace of Clubs with the Jack of Spades. Now they are happy with the value of their hand, so they are going to signal the end of the round. Now you may simply say, I close, or the way I prefer, you can knock on the table. Knocking signals that you are happy with your hand and that each player gets 1 more turn. Now with this particular hand, each player is going to pass. There will be no more exchanges. Now we do not replace these 3 cards because player 1 has knocked. They don't get to pass. They took their final turn and signaled for the end of the round. So each player has passed. There was nothing for them to exchange. They couldn't make their hands any better, so they just passed. And now the round is officially over, and it's time to figure out the score for each hand. Now for this hand, player 1 has a total of 30 points. Player 2 has 27, player 3 has 17, and the dealer has 21. In this case, the player with 17 has the lowest score, and they lose a chip. The next round will begin with the cards being collected and deal passing left. So over here, player 1 would be the next dealer. And the game continues until a player is out of tokens. When a player runs out of tokens, they get to play one more round. So let's say at the end of this round, player 3 just lost their last token. They get to participate in one more round. If they lose again, they are out. You continue playing rounds until only one player remains. That player is the winner. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what happens if there's a tie in hand value. So the player with the lowest hand value loses for the round and they have to lose one of their chips. But what happens if there's a tie? Well, in the case of a tie where each of the lowest valued hands is a 3 of a kind, so here each hand's worth 30.5 points, the player with the lower ranked set of cards loses. So the 3 kings would beat the 3 eights. This player would lose the round and lose a chip. If there's a tie between two players that have the lowest value hand that isn't a 3 of a kind, suits are used to break the tie. So the same suit ranking structure that is used in scat is used in Schwimmen. So clubs are the highest, then spades, then hearts, and then diamonds. So in this example, the player that has a value of 18 made of spades beats the player with the value of 18 made of hearts. This player loses a chip. And that's how to play Schwimmen. As you can see, it is a lot like 31, which is a little more common here in the States. But I think between the shortened deck and the different card combinations like the fire hand and the allowance for the 3 of a kind at all times, and the way you switch cards with the 3 card option pile, I think that all makes for a more enjoyable experience. If you need a write-up for this game or you'd like a set of rules to reference other than a video, the link for the write-up at gamerules.com is down below. Of course, I've got a link for Riffle, Shuffle, and Roll.com where you will find our original games. That is it for now. Until next time, keep on playing.